All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the program here. Just gotta fix this right here. All right. Welcome to the program, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I have not gone live in quite some time now. I've been a busy bee, but I found some extra time today. You know, I love doing this, and I love doing this so much, and I had to get back in the air. And you just start talking about a few things that have been going on lately. I mean, first of all, we are the day after the midterm elections, so that's something I wanted to talk about definitely, to gouge some opinions. Now today's going to be a rather short day because I have a meeting with a good buddy, to kind of discuss a movie film that we have been working on, but before I cut this short, I do want to make sure that I can get him on the air and we can do this, and start talking to you guys actually one-on-one here. So basically this is part one today, and hopefully I can get part two. Dave, if he agrees with doing this, we can get a part two going. First off, I had no idea I could do this on YouTube, which is awesome. Which is why I'm actually doing my first live YouTube podcast from my personal YouTube account. The reason being, this is just kind of a test, and I wanted to test this out and make sure it works properly. If it does, holy crap, that opens the door for tons of more podcasts to be done in the future live here on YouTube. For those of you watching live, I do have to apologize for this huge ass zit on my nose. It is awful. I usually don't have a second home residing on my nose. This is just, I woke up yesterday morning with this, and it's been really hard for me. By the way, if you enjoyed that song that we let in with, it is called No Going Back by Yuno. That's YUNO. This is just, random. I always start my podcast with random songs that I put on my Spotify list that are so good that I have to share it. And it's also kind of the vibe that I'm feeling the past week or so, and I want to share that with you guys as we have a conversation. Now, the first thing I want to talk about today, of course, was the midterm election that happened yesterday. I'm pretty sure the end results looked pretty even if you're looking at it from a equal point of view. I'm looking here at our data, and we have what? So it looks like Republicans kept the Senate very narrowly, and the Democrats took the House. So now, for what that means for people who don't really follow American politics all that much, that means that Donald Trump, the president, no longer has full power to pretty much get things done the way he wants it to be done, his policies, stuff like that, because before he had the Republican support in the Senate and the House, and now it just seems like the Senate will be the Republican force on Capitol Hill, and the House will be, so pretty much what happened during the Obama administration when people weren't getting along, a party was obstructing things and stuff like that. It seems like we're going to be back at that. So, for in a good way, we have a balance of power. There's no denying that. There's a balance of power now in Capitol Hill, no longer just a Republican takeover, for at least how I'm taking this. But in another respect, it also means that there will be a lot more disagreements and things not getting done for the most part, because there's just no agreement with lawmakers, which has been going on, but at least the Republicans were in control of most of it, and they got whatever they wanted to be done, whether you agreed with it or not. But now we're at a place that, once again, we're going to have two large political parties disagreeing with pretty much everything, because that's what they do, and nothing's going to be done. So we'll see how that carries out. I thought that was pretty interesting. But, you know, when I was talking to people yesterday about the midterms and who they were going to vote for, I did want to kind of post something on Twitter, kind of just displaying the message that, just because celebrities tell you to go out and vote, most likely Democrat. I'm pretty sure, had we not been in the circumstances that we've been in, that this celebrity push for voting would have not happened. But I'm pretty sure this was because of the Trump effect, pretty much. And so I don't think that's enough to get people to vote, because what I tweeted actually was that the underlying intent behind getting everyone to vote was just a means for an end, and that means was to just shit on Trump as much as possible, and get rid of him as much as possible, and obstruct him and resist. That was the intention behind it. And my tweet basically said, I said that you voting tomorrow is just a means to an end, and if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to stop the suffering in America, you're going to have to get involved. And so it's very true. You can't just vote when celebrities tell you to vote. And people, another thing to understand is, I've had this discussion with my parents at home and people close to me, is the fact that, the Democrats have a lot to learn. And it was really hard for me to vote this midterm. It really was. Because there was no clear conscience for me to vote this past election. There was no clear alternative. It was definitely like the last election, just the lesser of two evils. There was no clear option here, and it was not easy. So the Democrats is a failing party. For a party that pretends that it is the party for the people, while also taking corporate money and pretty much orchestrating their message, the way the party works, their business model is pretty much dependent on their donors, and this can't keep happening if we're going to keep having this two-party system here. There's no clear heroes and villains here. Obviously, the Republicans suck. They're all beholden to donors, but the Democrats are no different. Sorry, I'm being attacked by a fucking huge moth. Its guts are everywhere. It's what you get. It's what you get, buddy. It's what you get. Sorry. I'm so sorry. That's one thing about me. I hate insects. I absolutely hate insects. And that thing just landed right in front of the mic, and I had to fight or flight. I had to do something, and I just took a napkin and I'm sorry. You just watched a live murder on air on YouTube. And the way YouTube's been going, I wouldn't be surprised if this video gets flagged and taken down, because things are so sensitive lately. No, but seriously. So in all seriousness here, back on the topic, it was hard for me to vote because I just didn't know a clear option to vote for. Now, here's one thing that just steers me wrong, right? Obviously, when we voted for Obama, or those who voted for Obama, there was a clear message to vote for. We wanted change. We needed change. We had the economy in the tanks. The recession. We had all this trouble going on in America, and there was a clear message to vote for, and that's what voting should be like. Someone should be running for our interests, right? So what pissed me off was the fact that, yeah, Republicans had a message here, a message I didn't necessarily agree with, but they had a message nonetheless, right? The message was we need a stronger immigration, um, and a stronger border, right? And the economy and things that Trump really focuses on was the Republicans' message. What was the Democrat message? I'll wait. I will wait. There was no message, no identifiable message. Now, some could say, yeah, we have quite a few senators for the Democratic Party, you know, behind Medicare for all. Okay, yeah, absolutely. But half the party is not on board with that. So it's not a Democratic message, it's a few senators' messages. So that's not the party's message. That's why it's hard to vote for the party. Um, so when there was no message leading into the midterm election, it's really hard to vote my conscience when there's nothing to vote for. So that already was leading me wrong, and I had to talk to some people about that. And and your message can't just be we're not Trump. That can't be your message solely your message. They can't be it. Um, you're not going to win that way. And I think we saw with Andrew Gillum in the Florida governor race, that precisely go down. He was supported by Bernie Sanders initially, and he supported Bernie Sanders' idea for Medicare for all, and shortly after that, we had a kind of meeting, excuse me, a kind of joining hands with Cory Booker, which initially threw a lot of people off because Cory Booker has a history of not having a strong moral perspective, and it seems to kind of waver, kind of like Hillary Clinton, right? And he's also done clear things to make his donors happy. So for him to meet with Andrew Gillum was off-putting, to say the least. And then shortly after that, Andrew Gillum starts using the same talking point that many Democrats who try not to associate themselves with Medicare for all say. Instead of saying, I support Medicare for all, they say, I support affordable health care. Same thing politicians have been saying for a decade now. Affordable health care is such bullshit. Such bullshit. You're either for Medicare for all or you're not. And it seemed Andrew Gillum went down the route of not fully supporting Medicare for all. Probably something we need to look into. And that also made it off-putting for a lot of voters who initially were very enthusiastic, like myself, very enthusiastic about him running. And so that was another thing. And then I think the icing on the cake for him in Florida was having Hillary Clinton campaign for him, which I think was the icing on the cake. I think it was absolutely clear in 2016 that Hillary Clinton is not a popular candidate or politician among the American people. And they just didn't learn their lesson. And here she was again campaigning for him. And I think this is why he lost. I really do. I think we need a progressive agenda, a message that tells the middle class and voters what they could vote for, a bright future, an idea that can change things. And I don't think they did. I don't think they did that this time around. But it looks like things went halfway. It looks like things went halfway, and the Democrats have gained some control in the House, and the Republicans are no longer the overbearing rulers. So this is all kind of dry stuff if you're not really into politics. But one thing I want to make important is the fact that we are still at war in America. We are in 7 different Muslim wars. Why? I couldn't tell you, but I did come across this article that I wanted to share with you guys. I thought it was awesome. In the future, if I'm going to start using YouTube as a podcast place, I got to learn how to. Maybe I can get like a smart board behind me. That would be cool, like a smart board and show you guys. I got to figure out how Jimmy Dore does his videos, but I got to get a smart board and show you, the articles that I'm referring to, the videos that I'm referring to. I'm sure we could do that in post, but what I wanted to share with you is an article from truthdig.com. It is called America's Wars Are Completely Ignored in the Midterm Elections. This piece was written by Danny Jerson, and he is a U.S. Army officer and former history instructor at West Point. He served tours with Renaissance units in Iraq and Afghanistan. If there's any credible person to tell us about war, I think this is the guy. So he wrote an article basically explaining how America's wars are just not brought up in the midterm election. It's like a gray area that it's almost intentional to ignore. Again, before I read excerpts of this article, we are closing about 5 minutes left of this podcast, but we may exceed. But like I said, we have a guest coming on, and this could be the end of part 1 very soon, but we shall see. All right, so Danny Jerson, he says, the United States military is actively fighting in 7 Muslim-majority countries, and no one cares. As Americans go to the polls today in a ritual pretense of democracy, they will vote for one of the 2 major political parties on issues ranging from healthcare to immigration to the basic personality of President Donald Trump. The 3 mainstream networks, from liberal MSNBC to conservative Fox News, have reported on little else for the last several months. The whole charade is little more than politics as entertainment. I apologize. We are shooting from my basement and recording from my basement. This is just kind of something that we roll with, so I apologize. It's authenticity, man. It's 2018. We like this, right?
Hello.
That part's annoying, and I apologize for that. In the future, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of that. Okay. As I was saying, the whole charade is a little more than politics as usual. Like some popular sporting event in which the opposing sides wave the flag for the blue team or the red team. For weeks now, my television and yours has been saturated with political commercials for and against local legislative candidates. Some are attack ads focused on corruption and supposed left or right-wing extremism of the opposing candidate. Others center on taxes, healthcare, and ostensible hordes of immigrants approaching the U.S. in troublesome caravans. But none, I repeat, none say a thing about American foreign policy, the nation's ongoing wars, or the exploding record defense budget. You see, in 2018, despite being engrossed in the longest war in the U.S. history, the citizenry, both on Main Street and Wall Street, display nothing but apathy on the subject of America's faltering foreign policy. The reasons are fairly simple. While the populace reflexively adulates over heroes in uniform, it has been programmed to ignore the actual travails of our troopers. So long as there's no conscription of American sons and daughters, and so long as taxes don't rise, we simply put our wars on the national credit card. The people are quite content to allow less than 1% of the population fight the nation's failing wars, with no questions asked. Both mainstream wings of the Republicans and Democrats like it that way, though. They practice the politics of distraction and go on tactically supporting one indecisive intervention after another, all the while basking in the embarrassment of riches bestowed upon them by the corporate military industrial complex. Everyone wins except, that is, the soldiers doing multiple tours of combat duty, and dare I say, the people of the greater Middle East who live in an utterly destabilized nightmare of a region. Why should we be surprised? The de facto leaders of both parties, the Chuck Schumers, Joe Bidens, Hillary Clintons, and Mitch McConnells of the world, all voted for the 2002 Iraq War resolution, one of the worst foreign policy adventures in American history. Sure, on domestic issues, taxes, healthcare, immigration, there may be some distinction between Republican and Democratic policies, but on the profound issues of war and peace, there is precious little daylight between the two parties. That, right there, is a formula for perpetual war. To find the few brave voices willing to dissent against the foreign policy consensus, one must look to the political margins of the libertarian right. For example, Ron Paul, and the Democratic Socialist left, for example, Bernie Sanders. This is a sad state of affairs on election day that both Donald Trump and Barack Obama have assured us is the most consequential of our lifetimes. You see, on this point, I actually agree with these two polar political opposites. This is a vital election, only not for the reasons we're told. This November 6th is profound because it demonstrates once and for all the utter vacuumness of American politics. So, where does the U.S. currently stand on foreign policy today? Well, it is actively bombing 7 countries, has up to 800 military bases in 80 countries, has combat troops, special forces, drones, and advisors on the ground or in the skies above Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Yemen, West Africa, Libya, and Pakistan, among others. Occasionally, American service members are still dying across the Middle East, often in treacherous insider attacks in which the very people we advise and assist turn their weapons on our troops. Furthermore, it is unclear that the U.S. is either winning, whatever that means anymore, or accomplishing anything of note in any of these locales. For example, in the longest conflict of a lot, Afghanistan, all the key metrics indicate that the U.S. is losing, both politically and militarily. As for the other ongoing wars in the region, no one, not even the generals or the civilian policymakers, seems capable of articulating an exit strategy. Maybe there just isn't any. Still, none of that will be on the ballot today when Americans queue up to vote for their favorite teams. Mind you, this is all written by an Army veteran. Like, that's daunting that this was written by an Army veteran. This is not, this is written by one of the same people that are so pro-war a lot of the time. So this is just amazing to me. They'll be casting ballots based on the illusion of differentiation between two highly corporate political entities that are squarely in the pocket of the weapons industry and their Wall Street financiers. And tonight, when the media outlets dazzle their viewers with holograms, charts, and other neat toys depicting the day's winners and losers, not one station will ever even utter that naughty word, Afghanistan. What all of this illustrates in sum is that the citizenry doesn't really care about the troops, and neither do their elected leaders. Soldiers are political props and nothing else, meant to be thanked and paraded at sporting events and then effectively ignored. This is the new American way. The Republic, or more accurately, the Empire, is in real trouble when, in the midst of the longest conflicts ever, war is not even on the agenda at the polls today. Pity the nation. Such a remarkable article. It really is. I mean, it really is enlightening, and I just was just so compelled that I had to share it with all my social media here. It's just amazing, and I'm going to do that right now. Actually, I have to share this because this is just amazing. So pretty much what that article is saying is that this big midterm election that we just had, war is not even fathomable aspect of what people are voting for, whether on the left or on the right. Which should really concern people because the military industrial complex is a very real thing. It is something that for years now has been indoctrinated in American culture for us to overlook the fact that we are destroying the Middle East, killing thousands and thousands of innocent people. And it's very important that we talk about this. So that I think is a very important aspect of the midterms that I wanted to bring up, and that's something that we should all be talking about. So I just posted this on my social media, all over it, and I may get my account taken down because of this. So let's take a quick break. No, seriously, very quick, because as long as I'm waiting for my guest here, I will keep going. So let me just. Okay, let's keep going. So, okay, so another thing that actually maybe if I can, have this conversation with you guys now, it'll help me kind of get my thoughts together because I've been thinking about writing a new article this week and eventually actually filming a video about a very real thing that's been bothering me very much. And that thing is, I've been noticing a steady decline in the quality of our culture as of late. And what does that mean? That means music, the music industry. That means Hollywood, the movies that have been coming out, and television. The quality of television, as we've come to this new era of Trumpism and political correctness and just uncontrollable crony capitalism, I feel as if the culture and the arts aspect of our society is really on a decline, and not even steady anymore, just at a rapidly accelerating decline. Let me explain. For example, and I hate to alienate any listeners here. I'm not trying to make enemies here. I'm just giving my opinion. But one of the biggest things that stand out to me when I think about the decline of our culture as it pertains to political correctness and capitalism. Why is political correctness and capitalism combined destroying our culture? I'll give you one example that comes straight to mind, and that is one of my biggest and most favorite franchises growing up, Star Wars. I absolutely love Star Wars. I grew up with Star Wars, and I am so disappointed as a Star Wars fan now. Mainly because the new trilogy so far, I found to be a huge disappointment. One big aspect of that being that Disney had bought the rights of Star Wars, and Disney is in control of the making of every new Star Wars film. And I found myself slowly losing my faith in Star Wars or support for Star Wars. It's just slowly really going in a place I really hoped it never would go. And to the point where it's ruining the originals for me. It really is. So let me give you an example. This last movie that came out, The Last Jedi, was very disappointing for me. I really was not happy with the latest film. I'm not going to really get into the details of it, but the fact of the matter is the film very obviously was treading on shallow waters and eggshells throughout the whole movie. It seemed so robotically curtailed for an audience that they think that they have. that was so different for me as a true Star Wars fan that I really felt disconnected from the film throughout. There were many moments in the film that were off-putting, made no sense, just seemed uh, completely out of place. But after it being out for almost a year now, it makes more sense to me that I think about it now. The fact of the matter is that a lot of these things that were placed in the movie were mainly um, to keep a general audience happy, especially children. Disney is a children market. Star Wars was not made for kids initially. It was not. It was a space drama uh, about a family, according to George Lucas, and it was just not made for little kids. Yeah, it was made for little preteens and teenagers and adults. Um, it was not only for adults, but it was not for little kids. And there's many times in this movie that they just avoid a certain level of um, I can't even find the word for it, but it's just so on the surface and disappointing that this is a perfect example of how capitalism, Disney's intention of competing and making money with that, it's such an obvious money-making attempt that it really ruined it for me. Um, and I and it's really disheartening to see right in the middle. And I'm sure, here's the thing. This is a global, I can sense that this is a global understanding, not global meaning everybody, but there's a lot of people who agree that yes, the culture and the arts have been uh, dying because of political correctness and capitalism. And some people may not say capitalism, some people may say money making, but they support capitalism. I say capitalism because if you really look at it, it's gotten so indoctrinated in our minds that capitalism is the root push for creative arts these days. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about this, but I feel like now is a time, and I told you earlier that I want to write an article about this and post a video about this soon. I feel like now is a time where things are being pulled into that category of political correctness, for example. Um, Another example, Megyn Kelly was fired from NBC the other day for mentioning that when she was younger, it was normal or acceptable for kids to wear blackface if it was part of their costume. Obviously, not a smart thing to say, not a very empathetic thing to say, very stupid thing to say. But does it warrant being fired? Absolutely not. Uh, I think if we start firing people, especially on platforms as big as NBC and other big mainstream media outlets, we start a generation of broadcasters who are walking on eggshells, expressing themselves on TV. And if we do that, here's the thing: Megyn Kelly, by saying that, exposed who she is. Yes, be a crazy, be a outspoken liberal. I'm not trying to alienate anyone. I'm just using a term that came straight to my head. But the people on the far left right now who are for political correctness to its greatest degree is what I mean to say. I don't mean to say liberal, but if we had to look at the spectrum here, it's on the liberal side. Yes, be mad at Megyn Kelly, be outspoken about it, but shutting her up, I think, is the wrong move because now she just exposed herself. If we just start this pattern of you know firing people, we will start a generation of broadcasters who are so careful about the things that they say. People will no longer express themselves to their full ability, and show who they are to people, no longer, because they're walking on eggshells in order not to get fired. If I were in charge, I think the right move would to have done what Bill Maher did when he said the N-word last year, as part of a joke. Again, not the right thing to do, but what he did was he designated an entire show the following week in talking about why he was wrong. He apologized. Not only did he apologize, he had a black activist on his show, and he had Ice Cube on his show, and many other African Americans on his show literally diss him and lecture him on why he was wrong. And he sat there in silence, and he looked weak doing it. He looked vulnerable doing it, but he still did it. And I think that was perfect. You have to have a discussion. Why is this wrong? Now, young Americans, and this is, again, just my opinion, but young Americans growing up in this world as a teenager, as a preteen, they're watching the TV. They see Megyn Kelly gets fired for what she said, and then boom, she's canceled, and there is immediately no more dialogue. Yeah, they have that dialogue with their friends, their family, but that's it. If Megyn Kelly were not fired, I think if I were in charge, I would have had her designate a week, maybe half a week to a week of black. Apparently, she was hardly having black activists or any black people rather on her show. There was a lack of diversity apparently that she was getting a lot of heat for. I think it would be a great idea to have a discussion, explain and educate to her viewers why this was wrong, for her to take the back seat and allow her guests to educate her and the audience on why what she said was wrong. That's how our society should be. Because again, if we start silencing people, we will never get to a better place where we can have a discussion on race and anything else. How is a discussion on race going to get better if we just start shutting up the race talk in general? So we cannot move forward if we start silencing people like we did with Megyn Kelly. And that is only just a tiny example of how political correctness is really destroying our culture, the arts in general. Late night television is just awful. Late night television is just so bad. And it seems like Saturday Night Live. That's one thing I wanted to talk about so bad with Saturday Night Live. Wow, this pimple. I'm just staring at myself on the screen, and it's just really throwing myself off here. I apologize for this hideous freaking thing on my nose, but so I'm gonna drag this in front of my screen. But so Saturday Night Live, I wanted to talk about it. Just this past week, Pete Davidson got heat for making fun of a retired Army veteran. I think his name was Dan something. I'm not sure. I remember his name, but and I was just watching it, and it was just dawning on me again how just awful Saturday Night Live has been lately. I mean, in all honesty, it's not funny anymore. It's not funny, and but that's a simple thing. I mean, Saturday Night Live, a lot of people could argue, has not been funny for a long time, but I disagree, because actually just a short time ago, with people such as Fred Armisen, Bill Hader, Seth Meyers, Kristen Wiig, I think SNL was actually very funny. During that time with Sarah Palin and John McCain, when Tina Fey was playing Sarah Palin, I think that's actually what got me to watch Saturday Night Live for the first time. When people say, well, when's the first time you saw SNL? It was when Tina Fey played Sarah Palin, and I absolutely fell in love with the show. And it made me want to be on the show one day. It made me want to be an SNL cast member. Again, I apologize for the phone there. Bear with me here. But so I really wanted to be an SNL cast member after that. And it's really kind of depressing to see SNL go the way it's gone. Again, SNL has a pattern of going from funny to not funny. Please don't. Thank you. Sorry. No. So SNL has a pattern of being funny and not funny. And so that's normal. It's just a normal pattern. But as far as what it's been lately, I feel it's a little different. Yes, you can clean house with the writers, and I'm sure we can get. Here's the thing. I feel like SNL needs more physical comedy. This is something I argued when I did television shows back in college, right? Um, we had programs that were comedy based, and obviously, we're dealing with kids who are not professional. This is back at school. We're dealing with kids who are not professional comedians, not writers or anything. Of course, you have very shallow, not funny stuff. And one thing I always suggested was let's try more physical comedy. So instead of just jokes and writing jokes that are just not going to be delivered well, how about you get kids who are acting on these shows to do more of things that get them out of their comfort zone, right? So like be a character that's crazy and start doing weird stuff with your face and your body. I think that's more funny to audiences than just jokes that are written. And I think that's more because if we could get those fellow students to express themselves through their characters, I feel like that's more funny. But that's just my opinion. And I feel like the same thing for SNL now. When I watch Saturday Night Live, it reminds me of the college level um, shallow humor that is just really dependent on the punchline and the delivery of the punchline as opposed to the performer and the performance. So that's just my critique on SNL as a show, as a comedy show, as a as a live sketch comedy show. But what SNL has been a completely, it's almost like the platform has been stolen. The platform of Saturday Night Live has been stolen and hijacked for a liberal agenda. And I'm not saying that as a right winger, because I'm not a right winger. I'm someone who's the past 2 to 3 years have kind of woken up from this left wing bubble that I always thought was the right of way, right? Once the Trump ran for president, Bernie ran for president, once all the election of 2016 happened, I kind of, to me personally, feel like I awakened into this understanding that it's not all just one side that's correct. And so now that I'm out of this bubble, it's easy to see other people in their own bubbles. And I feel like in this current environment, what used to be a right-wing bubble now has evolved into a more rational discussion, at least on the conservative right-wing side. For most people, most right-wing conservative people that I talk to, not that you see in the media, but that I talk to, are more rational, open-minded classic liberals, right? The classic liberal was open-minded, uh, free, open, freedom, no wars, all that type of thing is now shifted to a more, not right wing, but if you look at the modern liberal class, or the people who identify as a liberal, democratic, they now seem to be the folks that are in this bubble that is very unparalleled with reality. And that reality being that no, just because you're on the left, and I've noticed a lot is that doesn't mean you're right. And there's a number of issues. I'm not going to get into it because we are running out of time. But there's a number of issues that people on the left now feel so entitled to that there's no room for discussion. People like Ben Shapiro, who I disagree with on a lot of issues, but I also agree with a lot of issues and the way he tackles issues, his rational way of tackling issues. I respect it, and that's someone I would want to engage into a conversation with because it really heightens my way of thinking. It doesn't make me, yup, I agree. He challenges me. And I've gotten crap for actually retweeting his stuff and liking his stuff, and I feel like that's the wrong approach. If you disagree with someone, I just got on a rant. Sorry, I just got on a rant. So where does this tie in with Saturday Night Live? SNL is so anti-Trump. It is disgusting. It is like a state television ran propaganda. I guess you can call it a comedy show. It's not even funny anymore. One or two sketches will have me chuckle, but a lot of the time I stopped watching after all my favorites left. But a lot of the time now when I watch, I can hardly muster up a smile. That's how bad it is. But it has become so anti-Trump that before, where SNL used to make fun of presidents, it was more on a lighthearted side. Yes, there was a joke or two that would get under the skin and kind of expose a very real issue, a very real flaw of the president. But now every single Trump sketch is like, yeah, fuck you. And it's just disheartening, man. You can't sell hate. No. Sorry, I declined it. No fax. Who gets faxes anymore? Sorry about that. No, it just feels like just hate. It's just absolute hate in its full form, and it's not a comedy show for me anymore. And that is part of how political correctness. This is a like a strand, a side step from political correctness, but Saturday Night Live has become a political show which does not aim in bringing everyone involved in the show. It's become very New York City, like we're in our own bubble here, New York, and there's no other part of the country. If you're from anywhere else of the country, you're just not cool and rich like we are. That's the feeling a lot of people get. And I just wish people were more honest with each other, more honest on platforms like this about how just disheartening and disgusting they feel. So people who work at Saturday Night Live, who I'm sure there are few who would just be like, oh, I agree with that. Let me talk to the people that I'm working with, and perhaps I can get them to agree too, and we can kind of work something out and stop doing this. So if you're listening to this and you agree with this, I could use your help. I looked on the internet. I tried to find an article or a video on YouTube that kind of explains what I'm talking about here, how political correctness and capitalism has been killing off creativity in its essence. And every Hollywood movie now, I'm running out of time, so I'm just kind of rushing everything out for this part one of the interview. It may be part one, maybe it for today. We'll see. But everything in Hollywood now is no longer a creative film on its own. Yes, you'll have one or two or three or four or five a year that are completely original ideas, but everything is based off a sequel. And I know why. I've spoken to people in the television industry. I mean, in the movie industry. Hollywood wants to make money now, and they do not want to gamble and take chances with movies that aren't part of the selling critique here. If you want to make a superhero movie, that's what's making all this money right now. That's what you have to make. If you have this idea that's not a superhero movie, get the half out. Hollywood is not for you right now. And that is just ridiculous. They're killing creativity. The music industry. What does I love hip hop. Hip hop has been such shit lately. And I will give hip hop some credit here. Yes, a lot of the shit out there is catchy as fuck, and I enjoy it. Drake, Migos, I enjoy it, yes, but as much as I enjoyed the old school hip hop, I feel like while I'm enjoying this new hip hop, I'm also in mourning old hip hop, De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest. There's just no more heart in hip hop anymore. It's just like mumble rap, and because that's what's making money now. So it's really a mourning period for creativity, and I feel like when we chase money, when we try to do what makes you money, this is completely misguided. I'm sorry, completely misguided. I really get into it. This is really completely misguided way of thinking, and this is destroying humanity in its finest. The arts, culture, society, it is ran on creativity. when we talk about the just things that last through time and just the beauty of being a human, it is dying. And I want to write. I'm gonna punch this thing. I want to write and make a video on this so badly, and I'm actually asking you, if you are tuning into this, please send me any ideas you have on, or your perspective on how you agree or disagree that the creative culture is dying. And I'm sure this is just a pattern, right? I have full faith in the patterns and fluctuations of um, reality and life. I feel like history tends to repeat itself, and I feel like we are in the dark ages to some extent, and things will pick up, things will be better, but we have to learn these lessons now. And I truly agree. But for us to learn these lessons, I feel like we have to have this conversation. So I appreciate you guys tuning in today and hearing me rant. I usually have a guest on the show, but like I said, I haven't done this in some time now. I had some time today, and I wanted to talk. And let me post that link to you guys that I read out in the beginning. So good, right? Such a good link. Again, it is called "America's Wars Are Completely Ignored in the Midterm Elections" by Danny Jerson. I will post that in the link. I'm not sure if viewers who come afterwards will be able to see that or not. I guess we'll figure it out. I really enjoyed talking to you guys today. To you guys or myself, really no big deal. It's still out there now. Out there. Someone somewhere will hear it. It'll be in the now for them. So we're still connecting no matter what time it is. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm hoping that I can do a part 2 in just a little bit once my good friend Dave Madden is here. We are working on. Here's the thing. Last thing I'll say. I have been making films and short films since I was young. Since I was like maybe 10 years old. I love making films. I love making skits, podcasts, articles, all that, just kind of expressing yourself. And I have not done it in quite some time. I used to make videos. I did it in college. I had a few shows. Then I went off the grid for a little bit, started writing a little bit, and now it is my goal, although I'm hard at work during the day, it is my goal to be super busy in just doing what I love doing and start making videos again, and writing and all that stuff, and really running myself to the ground with work. But it's what I love to do, and I'm hoping to do that all over again. Yeah, with your support, you will force me to do that. And yeah, I feel good, man. I feel good. I wouldn't be on here doing this if I didn't. But it's important that we all feel good about ourselves. That's one thing that's kept me from doing this. It's not that I didn't feel good about myself, although that could be a subconscious egoic thought. But sometimes you just don't feel it. You don't feel it. You don't feel yourself. You don't feel yourself. And you don't have the strive to do what you love to do. And I feel like I did today, and that's a good thing. And I hope I perhaps motivate other people to do the same and speak your mind. We need more people speaking their mind. We need to create an army of people speaking their mind, so we can really change the world. That's the goal. Am I right? So yeah. So thanks for tuning in. That'll do it for today. We kind of went over a little bit, but I'm still alone here with this stupid, annoying telephone and a dead moth. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we do part 2. We shall see. If not, just contact me. My Twitter page is at Djovan Henriquez. My YouTube at Belligerent Nature. Or this one. I have both now. So yeah. So thank you for tuning in, and I wish you all peace and love. Peace.